Hey, hey, welcome back to the show, the wrestling show. We're keeping it real, goes right. Welcome back to another edition of Real Take Wrestle Talk. I am joined today, as always, by my co-host, the barman, Trevor Sutton. Say hi to the people, Trevor. What's going on?
Hello, people. How's it going, man?
Very underwhelming introduction there, Trevor. But
Oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. We're gonna have a good show. We got a great show planned for you. I'm freshly shaven, ready to go. I look.
I see, and
Yeah.
apparently we coordinated with shirts. I didn't know this was
Yeah,
happening.
bro, we both bumming it, man. It's like that. I did not feel like put any effort. But it is how it is. We'll see We'll see what happens. We got a great show planned for you. We're gonna be talking about the WWE Hall of Fame classes of 2021 and 2020 because WWE was so generous. They decided to give us 2 classes this year.
Yay!
Yep, 2-time Hall of Famer XPac. We're gonna talk about that. We're also gonna be talking a lot about New Japan, which is something we haven't covered a lot on this show. Going to be talking about their new title, which many are calling the new Divas title. Going to also be talking about NXT moving to Tuesdays, Edge turning heel, and much, much more. Before we get into any of that, though, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. All right, Trevor. Are you ready to start?
I'm ready, man. I'm here.
All right. Let's go. Let's kick things off with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, Trevor, let me just enlighten you on a little bit. In case you haven't noticed, Kota Ibushi, he won both the Intercontinental and the IWGP World Championships. He combined them into one unified title that they presented to him just the other day, and right there, you can see it. That is the new title, the new IWGP World Championship that was presented to Kota Ibushi. New Japan, it debuted this new title, and it led to a lot of ridicule online. Many don't like the new look because they think it takes away from the old type of, very sophisticated look of the old title that many people liked and thought was one of the best belts in the wrestling world. Many others are comparing it to the Divas title and other terrible titles that we've seen in the past few years from WWE. And I'm not gonna lie, Trevor, I don't like it. I don't like it. What do you got for me? What do you think about it?
I don't like it, but I don't hate it. But what I will say is one thing that I've been reading constantly is the fact that it's too small. And if you compare it to the other titles, it is a touch smaller than the other titles they have in IWGP. But I mean, it does kind of look like the Divas title. It does. It's not as pretty, but it does kind of look like the Divas title.
Smack like the Divas title.
It does. It's crazy when you put up the image of all the titles combined. I'm like, wait a minute, it kind of does look like the Divas title. It really does. I mean, like I said, I don't hate it, but I'm just wondering, like, were they trying to put a little more pizzazz on their new belts? What were they exactly doing? Like, I mean, because the titles always look prestigious, like you said, some of the best belts in the business. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. This is like a growing trend in wrestling that I am very wary of now of bad belts, because we've seen that AEW is actually apparently immune to this other than their women's belt, which I don't like at all. But
No.
but in all seriousness, like the IWGP title, whenever I thought of that belt, I always thought of it as a prize. I always thought of it as, like that's the whole point of like IWGP that or in New Japan. That kind of sets them off differently.
Right.
Their belts are titles, they're championships, they're awards that you fight for. And before the IWGP Championship, that was something you wanted to fight for. Just look at it. It had like diamonds on it. It was the Intercontinental belt had a white strap. These were amazing looking belts. And then this is what I'm supposed to be fighting for. This is what I'm supposed to be getting rainmakers in the face 7 times a match for, going through those little ass tables they got in Japan. Like this is what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the Divas Championship remix. Like, come on. Like, dude, and the reason I'm so angry about this is because I feel like I think this is just a way for New Japan. I know what this is. This is going to go great with kids. It's a new belt. they're going to be able to
Right.
sell this and with toys. They're going to be able to sell this to kids because I think kids are going to like this belt better because it looks like more of a toy, a trinket, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's probably the reasoning behind this belt looking the way it is. I don't like it. It's the same reason I don't like the Intercontinental title right now, as you can see, in the U.S. title, which I think
Terrible.
are the
Both of
two
them are terrible.
ugliest. The Intercontinental title, especially, is the ugliest belt in wrestling today.
Yeah, it is.
It's like scary. I remember I wasn't there when they changed it up, so I didn't realize they was changed. And I look at it, I'm like, what the hell is that? Is that the new NXT North American title or something? Like, oh no, that's the Intercontinental title. Oh wow,
So
that's
to me, the
trash.
worst belt in wrestling is probably the 24/7 title. I hate that title. I
Look,
absolutely hate it.
look.
Like I think it's like Vince was just like, you know what? We need another title. Let's put this shit together, put that shit together, and make a belt. Like
No, that's exactly what happened. It's like exactly
it's
what
absolutely
happened.
terrible, dude.
But
It's awful.
look, no, I see. For me, the 24/7 title, I don't think it's any worse than the look of like the tag team belts, like the penny straps. Like the tag team belts are ugly. The
I'm
24,
glad I'm not the only person that thinks they look like pennies.
yeah,
It makes me feel good.
yeah. No, I mean the other on the other side, the SmackDown ones look like coins, like nickels, but still, I mean, like the Intercontinental title is just unrecognizable. The U.S. title, it's weird because when you look at close-up pictures of it, it actually looks like a decent belt. It looks good.
It does.
But when you watch it on TV, you can't see it. That's the problem. It's like too much gold and like you just can't it doesn't look. You don't know what you're fighting for, and it's obviously not a world title. And then and again, like I was talking about how they want to sell toys, right? It's the same reason WWE just has their big logo on all their main belts. It's just like, oh, look, our company branding. We who the Braves won the World Series? Goddamn pal, give him a belt. Get him out there. Like that's what it's about at the end of the day. It's about selling toys. But for me, this takes away, I think, from New Japan. I'm not gonna lie to you. Unless this is just like, unless this is just like making Kota Ibushi like a bigger heel, like if that's where this is going, and then maybe Naito or Kazuchika Okada wins the belt back and then changes it back or does something else. But I don't like the direction this is going.
I mean, I totally agree. Like, I mean, plus, how can you make Kota a bigger heel? Like, I mean, he's already one of the biggest heels in wrestling. It's kind of hard to make that even worse. But like, I mean, I don't know. I think you might be right though. I think it might be like a ploy for one, toy sales and more merchandise, and also it might just be one of those trolls that GP in New Japan does ever so often. But I don't know. I just don't like this belt. I think, like you said, it takes something away from the New Japan. I just don't like it. Like, I mean, when you think of iconic belts, you think of their original belt. You think of NWA's belt, which, I mean, a lot of people don't like it, but it's still iconic,
Oh, the old tumor belt.
Yeah. The old work plumber's belt,
Oh,
But
the one that the American Dream held for so long, baby.
too long. But no, it just takes a lot away from it. I mean, luckily they have great talent that will make you forget about it a little bit, but it's just, to me, it takes something from it. It's a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so my thing is, like you said, it's gonna be hard to make Kota Ibushi a bigger heel than he already is. But I mean, if anything else is gonna make him a bigger heel, I think this would be it. Because here's the thing: in Japan, like Japanese wrestling, especially, has a history of being treated very, very seriously. It's seen more in a sports type of atmosphere, and I think a lot of Japanese fans, especially from what I've seen online, they're not. They don't like this. They don't like the change in this belt. They don't like the direction that this belt has taken. And like, for those who are gonna say, oh well, it's just a belt design, doesn't matter, it doesn't dictate who's on top. It kind of does matter, because if the belt that everybody in the company is fighting for, the belt that everyone's putting their lives on the line for, it's supposed to be in like this world of New Japan or whatever, is ugly, it's gonna be a lot harder for you to think that, oh my god, this belt is like the most prestigious thing that
Right.
everyone should be fighting for. It's not gonna look like a serious prize. So that's what it comes down to. It kind of makes you just be like, it's kind of like when WWE unveiled their Universal title, the big Cheeto title,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
where everyone was just like, oh, that was. I was expecting like like globes and like satellites. I was like Universal. I was thinking space or something, and then they were just like,
Yeah.
God damn it! It's the WWE title, but red.
It's red. Yes.
It's a red. Oh yeah, that was.
Like, there was no change to it at all. And honestly, I don't even like the WWE title. I mean, it has grown on me, but I don't really like the WWE title. To me, the best belts in WWE, if we're going to talk about belts, were the original Intercontinental Championship. I like the original world champion. The tag teams were cool too. And honestly, the original woman's belt was much better than what it is now too. Like, I mean, I understand the overhaul, but like, why do you gotta uh, fix something that's not broken?
See, for me though, the best title in all of professional wrestling ever was the hardcore title
Because it wasn't a belt; it was a broken belt. That's why.
they
That's
literally
why
took Vince literally took a hammer to an old WWE replica and was like, "Here, Foley, fight for this."
Okay, go ahead, just kill each other for that. Yeah.
Literally kill each other. A big shout out to Crash Holly, the greatest hardcore champion in the history of professional wrestling. Don't come at me, internet.
Rest in peace, Cash.
Rest in peace, Crash. Another thing that we unfortunately have to say rest in peace to is NXT on Wednesday. Big news out here, Trevor. So let's break it down. NXT will be moving to Tuesday night starting April 13th of this year. That's right after WrestleMania. It's all part of a new multi-year plan the WWE and USA Network have agreed to keep the program on USA Network's airwaves for years to come. And it kind of breaks down to this, Trevor. USA wanted NXT to move from Wednesday nights for a while. Long time. This has been in the works. And every time they've tried to convince management, every time they've tried to convince WWE to move NXT back to another day, to Tuesday, whatever, they've just been fought very hard by Vince. And that's because, AEW is on Wednesday night. They want to be able to counter program them, and they really haven't been successful at all. And like I said, this puts an end to the Wednesday night war, which when you think about it, wasn't really much of a war. Like if you want to look at overall records of who won the ratings battle, it was NXT or it was AEW, like handily. Dynamite won 62 compared to NXT's 9 head-to-head fights. And then in the key demos, which everyone likes to talk about, Dynamite won 72 to NXT's 1. So and granted, both shows did very well. Like I'm not trying to bury NXT or anything. Like both shows did very well, and like you can see, in a wrestling show, like a B wrestling show, whatever you want to call it, can get 1 million people to watch. I think on a single night, and AEW's done that, NXT has done that, but the problem is they've been head to head, so the audience for a long time has been split. And I think this is going to be a healthy move for AEW. I think it's going to be a healthy move for NXT, who are going to move to Tuesday, have their own day. They're going to be able to build their storylines with people actually watching. And the fans win by this, I think. The fans 100% win, because I'm not going to lie to you. Wednesday nights were getting to be a chore for me. Watching AEW and then having to keep up with NXT, it was becoming a bit of a chore. So I think, breaking it up a little bit, it's good, because those are the two main shows that the hardcore wrestling fans watch anyway. But Trevor, what do you think about this move?
I mean, having TiVo helped me a lot on Wednesdays.
Damn, son, you still got TiVo?
Well, actually, I got Hulu, but yeah.
I'm about to say, damn, old ass.
Mind your business. But being able to record it really did help. But like you said, it was a chore, man. Like literally, they come on at the same time pretty much, so it was a chore. But honestly, I believe it was kind of fun having that old like Wednesday Night War, kind of like reminiscent of the Monday Night War. But it does help both companies a lot, especially NXT. even though I still believe in my heart of hearts they're the superior brand right now in WWE. For a long time, the only thing I watched made by WWE except for pay-per-views. And now SmackDown is showing its ass and they're doing pretty well. But going to Tuesdays helps them. I mean, who are they really competing with? Impact Wrestling? Who the fuck watches that?
Oh no, Impact! Impact. They preempted this. They knew this was coming, so they moved to Thursdays.
But wasn't Impact originally on Thursdays?
Yo, snap back to reality. We're back where it started, where it all begins again.
We were like, screw this. We're going back to Thursday. We're not dealing with the NXT.
God, dude.
NWA is still on Tuesdays, I believe.
Yep, NWA Power is still on Tuesdays, but I think that they're a YouTube show, right? So they're gonna be they'll be fine. People are gonna be able to watch them whenever.
I mean, people are gonna be fine, but honestly, I think just to piggyback off what you said, I think this is a great move for both companies. Probably more so in NXT because they don't have to compete with in AEW. Yeah, I can't wait. Honestly, I think it's gonna be cool. I think it's gonna be a good move for both.
Yeah, and to me, it's kind of like this honestly, like NXT moving to Wednesday nights or being changed to a USA Network show right before AEW aired. That was a pretty petty move. I'm not gonna lie to you. I understand why Vince did it, but it came across to a lot of wrestling fans as a petty move. It came across to even wrestlers themselves as like, oh wow, this is like it puts. So not only does it put your show NXT in a hole to begin with, right? Because you're competing with this hot new brand that is catching fire, that's selling out in minutes, that is like people are excited for it, that has big names. Not only are you competing with that, and you're competing with that on the same night, and that's going to put your wrestlers in a hole because now they're going to have to work 10 times, 15 times as hard to try to get over with an audience that might or might not be watching. Or if they're watching, they're going to be flipping channels back and forth. I like sometimes I do that. Like if NXT or if AEW's on a break, I'll switch over to NXT. But like for me at least, it's been very consistent though. Like NXT has put out a good product, but I'm always almost exclusively like watching Wednesday night wrestling. I'm watching AEW. Like that's the one like I tune into first. That's the one I usually stick with, and then I'll watch NXT afterwards. But it's but I don't think like NXT, again, it's like not one of those things. Like NXT hasn't been putting on a bad product. I just think one of the other things that AEW has that's gone well for them is the fact that that's their only show every week. With WWE, NXT is kind of under that umbrella with WWE. So you have Raw, you have SmackDown. You're just kind of like, at some point, you're like, all right, let me get out of this WWE universe, literally. Right. and go see something else. So I think that might have played into it as well. And
AEW does have 2 more shows, but again, it's just like NWA. They're on YouTube. They have Dark on Mondays and they have Dark on Tuesdays as well. But it benefits them to have one prime time show.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, the other thing is like Dark and Dark Elevation, like those aren't even like their main show. Those are like their heat and their velocity.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to say.
Yeah, and actually, I actually do want to maybe spend like a minute or two talking about this. Like, I actually want to commend like Tony Khan and AEW what they did with Dark and Dark Elevation, or Dark especially. So when the pandemic was going on, they actually on Dark, they used a lot of independent talents who weren't getting booked on a lot of other wrestling shows, and they booked them. They actually like went out there and then they booked them for dates. And it wasn't a thing where they violated their contracts. Like they worked it out so that these people could get paid, so they could learn, so they could grow, and so that they could get some exposure as well. And I think that's a big thing. Like people don't talk about it a lot, but I was listening to a unrestricted podcast with Aubrey Edwards and Tony. I almost called him Tony Chimmel. Tony Schiavone. Rated R superstar. Yeah. But no, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how Tony Khan really like basically saved independent wrestling in America, like the really small indies in America, because he was allowing these people to learn. He was allowing these people to come in and have matches on fairly big stage. AEW's YouTube channel has a few 100,000 subscribers, so. I think they definitely deserve a lot of praise for that, especially because just think about the pandemic and like what it's caused, right? Not only has it caused like people to be fired, not only has it caused people to lose their livelihoods for wrestling, like in a vacuum, it's caused all these people who wanted to learn wrestling, who were training, to essentially be put back an entire year. To all these people who were working, we put back an entire year in their learning process, in their performative functions and whatnot. So even to the small degree that he did it, I think Tony actually spending the money too in a time where money's probably tight to do all that. That's actually a big investment, and it shows you one thing. And I think Tony Khan's actually been very consistent with this since the beginning, right? He's been consistent about, yes, I'm always going to do what's best for AEW. But it's also because I believe what's best for AEW is what's best for professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
And for him to go out and sign all these indie guys who, may or may not have had a future with AEW. Some of them did, like Dolph Ziggler's brother. What's his name? Something Zach Nemeth, whatever. Matt Nemeth. Yeah. Some shit like that. Yeah, but signing him, and he ended up signing with them. So sometimes it's worked out, but that's a big thing, and I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I noticed it later, like kind of early on, and then it was actually said too. Like that's one of the reasons I love Tony Khan. I think Tony Khan is a very nice guy, very generous man. He's just trying to help. He literally is an owner who loves wrestling. He came in as a fan and became an owner. And I honestly believe everything he puts into this product, every match he puts together, every show he puts together, it really comes from just his fandom, honestly. And it shows. It really does show.
Big facts. Nicest guy in wrestling. Best guy in wrestling. If you want to throw us a couple bucks, Tony, feel free to do so.
Hey, I think we've been sucking up to you enough to get,
Yeah, and if you don't, man, fuck AEW. That shit sucks.
You're not invited to the Pakistani cookout if you don't
know. No, we love AEW. We love wrestling here. Let's move on, Trevor. You were talking about SmackDown earlier. You're saying SmackDown is probably the best programming that WWE is putting on as of late, and I agree with that sentiment as well. And on SmackDown, we had a huge development. The Rated R Superstar, as I mentioned earlier, turned heel officially, blasting Roman Reigns with a chair, trying to concerto Daniel Bryan after Daniel Bryan was officially added to the match at WrestleMania, making the Universal title match a triple threat match in the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania. So we talked about what this meant for Bryan and why, Bryan might actually end up having to win this match last week. We talked about, what if this happened. We don't have to ask what if now. It's happened. It's happening. And now Edge is working WrestleMania officially as a heel. It's not a tweener thing anymore. He's a full-on heel because he literally tried to concerto Daniel Bryan, a man who has a history of concussions, who had to retire because of concussions. So I don't think there's any room for interpretation there. But what do you think about this turn by Edge and this storyline?
With this turn by Edge and this storyline, they may have just saved the belt for Edge. Honestly, like we were saying last week, it had to be something big for Edge to even win the belt because you have one of the biggest baby faces possibly added to the match. And like you said, now it's not a possibility. He is added to it. But with this heel change, Edge might possibly win the belt now. Only because when Edge was a heel, he was at his best. I mean, he was good regardless. But when Edge was a obnoxious, so-called surfer boy with Christian, they won the tag team champion. many, many times. When he was doing Unspeakable Things, the leader on national TV, he won the heavyweight championship many, many times. Like
Yep.
when he is at his best, when he's a heel. So that might be the little wrinkle that Vince McMahon accidentally stumbled upon to keep Edge the victor of this match.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. So, well, I agree with some of it. I still think at the end of the day, Daniel Bryan as the face is going to end up winning because I look, again, I'm biased. Daniel Bryan's like to me the greatest wrestler ever. But I it's gonna be hard for them to get away with unless the reaction they're looking for is for to get booed out of the building.
Right.
It's gonna be hard for them to, not put the belt on Bryan at this point. Because the way he's being built up is everything's against him now. It's literally very similar dynamic to WrestleMania 30, almost the same dynamic as WrestleMania 20, with that triple threat. And what we're seeing is, like there's one obvious face, and then the other two are big heels. And in Roman Reigns' case, he's actually, I think, lost a little bit of luster as of recently. Yeah, he's the champion, and he hasn't really been put in the same spotlight as Edge. I think the Edge and Daniel Bryan dynamic as of recent weeks has kind of overshadowed that. And this is in the midst of Roman Reigns being in the greatest run of his career. It's in the midst of Roman Reigns coming off of at Fastlane. I think his and Daniel Bryan's one of their best performances ever. So. Yeah. So it's weird to me still a little bit the dynamic that they're going with, and I think I think it would have worked itself out, right? Like this whole thing would have worked itself out better if there were fans at the shows preceding WrestleMania, because right now it's hard to get a feel of it's kind of everyone has their own emotion, right? You kind of have your own emotion. There's no really group think. There's no really oh, well, what are the other fans thinking kind of this, or what's hot? Like, you kind of have to decide for yourself. And so I think that's why, you're seeing a lot of people have these different opinions about this feud. So for me, I like turning Edge as a heel because I think it's the only way you get to the, eventual conclusion of this match, which is Daniel Bryan winning the Universal title, and hoisting it up as the mega babyface of WrestleMania 37. Now, is that going to happen? I'm also I agree with you on this. I don't think that's going to be that's the plan for that. I think the plan is still to roll with Edge. I think this was kind of done as a realization of what we were talking about last week. Oh shit, we forgot Bryan. We put Bryan in this. I literally think they forgot. Right. I will never admit they were oh, this was all part of the plan. I literally think at one point they were fuck. We did it again.
No, I totally agree with that. I honestly believe that at this point you almost have to put the belt on Bryan. But as you said before, I'm also biased. I am an Edge head. I've been an Edge fan for a very long time. And when he came out in Royal Rumble, I think I was just as loud as everyone at the arena. But I honestly believe that the way they did it, which was completely by accident, like you said before, they have to give the belt to Bryan. But turning Edge heel might help the situation just a little bit because you have two heels. One has a history of being a heel in Edge, and the other one is a heel that got fed up with being a face and became a heel. And he's also having one of his greatest runs, like you said. Honestly, this is the best Roman Reigns I've ever seen. Honestly,
agreed.
Even beginning Roman Reigns when he was with part of the Shield, he talked a little bit, but he was kind of quiet. You mainly focused on Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, but
facts, yeah.
With this being one of his best runs, I honestly believe having a match with two of the best performers that you can have at this moment with Daniel Bryan and being Edge, I think this is going to be a great match for all three, honestly. And I still do agree that to make it believable, Bryan will have to win the belt.
You have to put the belt on Bryan. You can't. You're gonna get booed out of the building if you don't, and it's not gonna be a good conclusion to WrestleMania being back. Damn it.
Right. You know.
But yeah. Oh, we just got a thing in the chat. Ryan Woodbridge says the Fiend versus Randy Orton match. Randy probably will be set on fire. We can only hope. We can only hope.
At this point, you know what I mean? Something horrible has to happen to Randy.
Something horrible, dude. Something horrible, something funny. Like I said, I want a Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania where we see floating frozen turds just surrounding Randy.
Mr. Hanky just comes out and starts singing like,
Mr.
It has to be something like that. But I mean, at this point,
yeah,
you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything with it yet.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Well, we'll talk about the Fiend a little later on. Don't worry about that. We'll get into him in our Raw review, which we'll talk about right after we talk about what is next. And if you haven't already, though, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Trevor, let's talk about it. We were talking about it during our little pregame thing. Ooh, let's get into it. It's a long list. The WWE.
It really is.
The WWE, in their almighty generosity, has provided us with not one but two Hall of Fame classes this year. They've combined the classes of 2020 and 2021 into one mega super duper double main event class, and it's a huge list. It's a lot of lists. Let's go through some of the names in the Hall of Fame right now. So right now you have JBL, the British Bulldog, Jushin Thunder Liger, William Shatner as the celebrity inductee. The NWO, we'll get into that. I have a bone to pick with that. Molly Holly, Eric Bischoff, the Bella Twins, the Great Khali, Rob Van Dam, and Kane rounding out the list of the 2020-2021 WWE Hall of Fame class. So we're going to go through each of these people and kind of do a little bit of retrospective and give our thoughts about, their careers and their where we think they are in the Hall of Fame. Are they Hall of Fame worthy or are they not? We'll do that in a second. But what do you think of this move, Trevor, of WWE, of, not just like, saying, okay, we didn't have the 2020 Hall of Fame for obvious reasons. We're just going to, anyone who was supposed to go into 2020 is going to go in 2021. But saying, oh, no, we have to have two classes. We still have, for the history books, we still have to have the 2020 and the 2021. So it's a mega class. Like, what do you think of this move?
I understand it, honestly, because, of course, like you said, they didn't give the fans what they wanted last year because they physically couldn't, I mean, we're lucky enough to get the product of WrestleMania we got last year in the first place. Excuse me. But I think it's I don't know. I think it's a move that they made to make money, which again makes sense. You want to get as much money out of this particular event as you can. I mean, this is the first one with fans, so you want to try to make some money out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's natural case of WWE doing too much, at one time, which they've done many, many times before. Like I think it's too saturated with too many people. Like, and some of these people, no one really cares about.
Wait, who are you? Who in the world could you ever be talking about? Have you seen? Let's go back to the graphic. Look at this star-studded cast of characters. You have the Great Khali, the greatest world champion in WWE history. You have the Jushin Thunder Liger, one of the greatest, most prolific superstars in WWE history, and William Shatner, the greatest celebrity inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame ever. Have you even seen the original Star Trek? Come on now, you're capping.
First off, you couldn't even say that shit with a straight face.
You just wait. You just wait.
But William Shatner, I mean, I get the celebrity inductee, but William Shatner, come on. I mean, I love William Shatner.
Here's the thing. They picked somebody that we could not hate. They picked
exactly. You can't hate.
It's like when they put in Snoop Dogg. Usually the celebrity inductee gets shit on, but the year they inducted Snoop Dogg, everyone's like, you can't hate Snoop Dogg.
No, you can't.
Especially when he gives you a free concert. But Before we get into talking about each of these inductees, Ryan Woodbridge in the chat says, next year, WWE Hall of Fame class, they should induct the Brothers of Destruction in WrestleMania. I mean, look, with all of the double and the triple Hall of Famers they got running around
sense.
now, yeah, you might as well. Just put in... No, actually, you know what they'll do, Ryan? They'll put in The Undertaker next year. And then the year after that, they'll put the Brothers of Destruction, the headliners. God damn it, Kane and Undertaker still main eventing in 2023. Oh, Vince, gotta love it. All right, let's go through these Hall of Famers allegedly. So the Hall of Fame also, by the way, did commence taping. They're taping this year's Hall of Fame, so they just taped, I think, the NWO and the Bella Twins tonight, and then the whole show is gonna be broadcast later on during WrestleMania week, but. Let's kick it off. All right, Trevor. JBL is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He, of course, started his career in the WWE as Bradshaw, part of the APA, with Farouk, a.k.a. Ron Simmons. They won a few tag team titles, I believe, and then he switched personas. And it's one of the most consequential switches I've ever seen from a character. He switched and became, this loudmouth, rich Texan called JBL. And as he's never let us forget since then, he became the longest-running WWE champion in SmackDown's history. He also has a history of being a notorious locker room bully, and we'll talk about that, I think, in a minute. But just initial thoughts on JBL getting into the Hall of Fame and, his career.
So JBL, you actually missed one. JBL's been in the WWE for a little while, actually. If I'm not mistaken, it was mid to late 90s. He was Justin Hawk Bradshaw.
Oh, Blackjack Bradshaw. I remember that.
Yeah, he was black. We missed two then. So he was Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Then was Blackjack Bradshaw. So he's been around for a while. Now, you can't deny the man's work. He works well. I actually loved him. As Blackjack, and I also loved him as part of the APA. To me, the APA was one of the most underrated tag teams. I think they were very interesting. But I love Ron Simmons. I mean, you can't deny Ron Simmons' resume, man. The first black champion in WCW history. Like he was very prolific in his career. Like amazing wrestler. Put them together, I thought was money.
Yeah.
But a lot of what JBL did in like just his run as championship, or just his run as just a singles competitor, was kind of questionable. The whole storyline he had with Shawn Michaels, giving Shawn Michaels money, because Shawn Michaels was quote unquote bankrupt.
Yeah.
That was a little much. I mean, even when he was wrestling Eddie Guerrero and some of the racist.
Wow! When he kicked Mexicans across the border.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
That was bad. Oh, that was bad.
But all in all, I mean, I don't hate this decision. I mean, to me, it's not as bad as some of the others on the list. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is for JBL, I think what makes him a Hall of Famer and what kind of saved his career was in 2004 when he made that switch to JBL, because like that was like around the same time I was like really getting passionate about wrestling and like becoming a super fan. So for me, like, when I saw that transformation, like when I thought of heel in wrestling, two people came to my mind at that point. It was Triple H and it was JBL, because JBL was so good at what he did as a heel. And it's possibly because he was such a huge heel in real life. But he was so good at getting that reaction, that guttural reaction out of the crowd, being a pompous, arrogant piece of shit. He was good at, bringing out, and he could work. That's the other thing. It gets very underrated. He didn't have the body of a Greek god. God knows we don't. But he could work. And his matches with Eddie Guerrero, the Texas Bull Rope match they had at Great American Bash 2004, one of the best matches I've ever seen growing up. They had, he wrestled The Undertaker in a few matches, which were phenomenal. Like in that 1 year where he was champion, he had feuds with some of the greatest people ever. He feuded with The Big Show. He feuded with John Cena. He feuded with The Undertaker. Feuded with Eddie Guerrero. I think he had a little bit of a feud with Benoit as well.
At one point?
Who?
Rey Mysterio. I think.
Yeah, he feuded with Mysterio too. So he feuded with nearly like everybody in SmackDown, and he won a lot of those feuds. He only lost at WrestleMania 21 when he lost to John Cena. So I think JBL and his induction into the Hall of Fame, it's worthy on the merits of just his run as the heel JBL. Also, what he did in ECW, when ECW One Night Stand, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the. So ECW One Night Stand came out with a alternate audio, like an alternate commentary, and it's literally 2.5 hours of JBL saying the most offensive, raunchiest shit ever. And it's not surprising some of the stuff he's saying. I'm not gonna lie, like. Just go out and seek it out. That might be, worthy of, that kind of thing goes into the realm of his locker room bully thing. And I think we should talk about that because he does have a history of being a bit of a locker room bully. He has noted to, I'm not going to use, these types of words, but like he's been noted to, go up to people in the showers and, mess with them. Yeah. Which is deplorable if you ask me. He's there's the incident I talk about One Night Stand. At One Night Stand 05, he beat the shit out of the Blue Meanie. He literally just started punching the hell out of him. He was bleeding. If you watch the video, he's bleeding profusely, and it's just because he thought he was fat and he was a little mark. Because the Blue Meanie said one thing about JBL in a shoot interview that JBL didn't like. And it's stuff like that. It's stuff like, the wrestler's court thing, which, hearing those wrestler court stories, they're cool, but at the same time, when you think about it, it's like the stupidest thing ever to have like wrestler's court. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
like oh, what's your yeah, you did this thing to offend the boys. All right, now you got to buy Bradshaw some beers. What? How does that teach anyone a lesson? How does that benefiting the boys at all? It's not. So, there's all of these different incidents, I think, that make Bradshaw, deplorable to fans, but also deplorable to his fellow peers in wrestling. And we know that Vince and him are golf buddies. He's going to get into the Hall of Fame no matter what. But, doesn't that a little bit kind of erode away at his legacy, do you think?
I mean, a little bit. But, to be honest, if you go back, there are a lot of pieces of shit in that locker room, and some of which actually early on in his career, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Shawn Michaels, was an absolute asshole, especially when he was doing the painkillers and everything. No one liked him in that locker room. There was a time when he got suspended because of the fact that him and Martin Jannetty were just complete pieces of shit. But I mean, he's still one of the greatest in-ring performers I've ever seen. And Ric Flair also mentioned he might be the greatest wrestler he's ever wrestled. So, which is saying a lot. Yeah. So, I mean, should it take away from his, because I mean, JBL was worse than Shawn Michaels, but should it take away? Probably, but is it? No. Because I mean, Shawn was never racist or, never went up to anyone in, like you said, beat the holy shit out of him with the Blue Meanie.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And there's also the incident with I forgot the name of the tag team, but in 2001 at the Royal Rumble, 2000 at the Royal Rumble, him and Farouk just beat the shit out of this tag team because
I forget the name. I know what you're talking about.
Is it Mean Street Posse? Maybe I don't know. It was
it Mean Street or was it the
It's from ECW actually. They were from ECW. I don't remember. But you're supposed to take care of the people who are in the ring with you. That's the whole point about wrestling. You're supposed to take care of the people who are in the ring with you. And there were several points in his career where he didn't do that and he was doing the opposite.
It's just he didn't. I mean, like you said, we talked about earlier about the Mexican thing. That was completely fucked up. I mean, in a lot of his commentary, you're sitting there listening to was he really allowed to say that shit? He's called people names on commentary. It's just he bullied
Mauro Ranallo off of commentary. The best announcer WWE had since JR. Yeah. He bullied him off of commentary.
This shit was crazy. I'm like, what the? But I mean, again, like you said, he's Vince's golf buddy. He's gonna. I mean, he has done a lot for WWE. He's
Yeah.
going to get the nomination regardless.
Yeah. Okay. Ryan Woodward just asked, "What do you guys think of WWE and Peacock?" We will get to that in the show. I promise you that.
Ryan,
We
I have a lot to say.
we will get to that in the show. Do not worry, Ryan. If you can't wait though, got a video on the channel. Be sure to subscribe and go check it out. It's in the channel just from yesterday. Will Shawn Michaels be inducting the NWO? Actually, you know what? Let's go. Let's talk about that because I know you and I have some strong feelings about the NWO. Just to start off, I do think that Shawn Michaels is going to be inducting the NWO. I just want to get that on the record.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so.
Let's talk about this. So, the NWO are going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And so it's not, but before you get, excited, it's not the real NWO. It's Hall and Nash, Waltman, and Hogan. Which means all of them, including XPac, are two-time WWE Hall of Famers. Trevor, before we get into talking about, the missing members and the legacy of the NWO, what are your thoughts on X-Pac being a two-time WWE Hall of Famer?
Remember that thing we talked about being a piece of shit? Yeah. I mean, if it doesn't get any worse, at this point, he's just as bad as fucking Lex Luger at this point. He gave China the drugs. He got China on the drugs. Come on. But look, there's a lot of stuff I can say about X-Pac. I don't understand why he's a two-time Hall of Famer. I mean, I get Diesel, I get Razor Ramon, I get both of those. Unfortunately, I get Hogan. But 1, 2, 3 Kid did absolutely fucking nothing. And the only reason he was inducted was because he was a member of DX. That's absolutely it,
dude.
And he wasn't even a founding member.
His entire gimmick, that dominated his career, was DX. X-Pac had the DX music in 2002. He still had the NWO gimmick in 2002. He's been living off of his friends' gimmicks for his entire career. The man hasn't done anything short of the 1, 2, 3 Kid thing, which even then, he had to do that with Razor Ramon.
Exactly. Every match he was with Razor Ramon was fantastic. Even all the matches he was with Shawn Michaels were great. You know why?
You know why? Because he was with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. Dude, X-Pac, sure, he can work, but there's a reason they call it X-Pac Heat. There's a reason they call it Go Away X-Pac Heat. It's because we hate to see X-Pac on our TV screens.
Exactly. I mean, and if you talk about the man as a personal, is an actual man, like Sean Waltman, he's a piece of shit. It's just, people like him, I just hate to see inducted or whatever, any type of fame, because honestly, to me, he's what's bad for wrestling.
And it's yeah, it's also just all the two-time Hall of Famers they have. They have Ric Flair, now Hulk Hogan. They have Hall and Nash. Okay, yeah, all of those guys that left a footprint on the business.
Right.
X-Pac? Come on. Spinning heel kick X-Pac, that was his only move. The spinning heel kick.
No, you forgot the Bronco Buster and the X Factor.
No. I will say this. Every time I watch an X-Pac match now, I always look for him doing wah, because he does that at least once a match, but...
I did like him and Kane together, though. I can't lie about that. I did.
Oh yeah, when Kane, Kane hit him with the suck it. We love to see that. We'll talk about Kane too coming up, but the NWO is getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, and it's only those 4 members, and that's ginned up a bit of some controversy online and amongst myself as well, because I'm like, the NWO wasn't just these 4 guys. Okay, if you're going to only put in, a select few members in the NWO, then the members you have to put in are Hogan, Nash, Hall, and Luger, because those are the people who made the NWO. But no, they chose to put in X-Pac, and And like, look at the other members they're missing. If you're gonna put in XPac, you might as well just put in the entire NWO because, look, the members that are missing: Buff Bagwell. When you think of NWO, Buff Bagwell is definitely a name that comes to your mind.
Yes, definitely.
Conan, man, Conan.
Conan is better than X-Pac.
Conan was more instrumental because he actually wrestled and he actually did something, and he was I think he has like the best winning record of anyone in the NWO.
I think you're right, actually.
Yeah, and like if we want to talk about more members of the NWO, I talked about Luger. What about Sting? Sting was in the NWO Red. He was in one of them. He was in Wolfpack, and by far the biggest snub in this Hall of Fame. And I'm talking about you're gonna induct the NWO. If you're gonna induct X-Pac, you have to induct Virgil. He has to go into the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Man, this is look, I understand. I understand why people don't like Virgil. Because you take a picture with him and then he automatically charges you like $15 for it. Like I understand. He's a cheap son of a bitch. But goddamn, like Virgil is probably he's definitely at the same level as X-Pac because he didn't really do much. He kind of just stood there and did this. And you know what he was doing? He was like counting. He's like, "Oh, this money I got for just shaking my hands like this." That's all he did. It was all about the payday.
If you induct him, X-Pac, you gotta induct the Disciple, aka Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Oh my God, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, a 2-time Hall of Famer.
Exactly. You also have to induct. Are we forgetting Macho Man?
Yeah.
Like shit, Mr. Perfect was in it. Like
get Ted DiBiase in there. What about Jeff Jarrett, a 2-time Hall? Just give them all. Just give them all. Like you're inducting, and this is why what I don't like about groups. Okay, there are some groups I understand you have to induct, right? Like DX, I understood it.
Right.
Like or the Four Horsemen. All right. You know what? Even Absolutely. DX kind of like, yeah, they revolutionized the business, but the Four Horsemen, you had to induct them as a group. The Fabulous Freebirds, you had to induct them as a group. Absolutely. And it makes sense because they did so much as a group. Now, when you get into like, you know, inducting like, oh, we're gonna induct the NWO and half of DX and like 4 members of this group, and then the Click. You know, the Click is gonna go in one day. X-Pac is a future. He's a future 3-time Hall of Famer.
Induction of everybody.
Yeah. So like
it's
all
the
these
only induction that Just Incredible will ever get.
Justin, oh yeah, EV 2.0 baby. we love those ECW originals you're gonna get in. Like, just see, this is like watering down your Hall of Fame, and this is why people don't think the Hall of Fame is like, you know, worth a lot anymore. Like it used to be, you get into the Hall of Fame, you know, it was worth a little bit, and I actually like the Hall of Fame as a concept because the Hall of Fame is one of my favorite nights of the year because not only do you get to see like faces you haven't seen in a while, but you also get to like see the emotion on like these legends' faces. It's kind of like, that's what I like about like WrestleMania weekend. It's like an ultimate wrestling reunion kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like for me, like one of the best Hall of Fame like moments I've ever seen was the Bushwhackers when they got inducted.
Oh, that was so great.
It was great. Like you had Roddy Piper come up, do the little Bushwhacker dance, and then Bret Hart, who never pops for anything, did like and you could see the happiness on both their faces when they got inducted. And that's what it's about. That's what I love about the Hall of Fame, because you get to hear from these people. This is their moment. Like they haven't had anything as big before. They're never going to have anything as big as that moment. And they know it. And they are letting it all out. Like when the Rock and Roll Express got inducted, that was a great speech. That was a good one too. So the Hall of Fame is known for having these moments and really sometimes being a tear-jerking event, which is what I love. But when you have like, you know, nepotism running wild, brother, you're gonna have like Hulk Hogan. You're gonna have all of these people be 3-time. Ric Flair at this point is gonna be an 18-time fucking Hall of Famer. Evolution. He's in like
I said, Evolution. He's probably gonna go in for Evolution.
He's gonna go into all of these groups. It just, I don't know. Put a bow on the NWO for me.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. Like you said, some of the great moments when The Rock inducted his grandfather. I literally almost teared up a little bit. That was great. That one was good. I mean, you have good ones, and I think, like you said, this is just taken away from
it. Yeah. Ryan in the chat just says the Big Show should be hell yeah, put the Big Show in there.
Damn right, Ryan.
Get the I think the Hurricane was in there. I think put in Booker T was in the NWO. Get him in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. Get them all in there. Fuck.
Vince McMahon. Just man, this is. God, I hate wrestling. Moving on, let's talk about the next inductee, Jushin Thunder Liger. We love Thunder Liger. A little known. Whoops. Small. I can't do it. I have to. It's Jushin Thunder Liger is going into the WWE Hall of Fame, which is interesting because he didn't really spend any time in WWE. He was more well known for his time in Japan. He was in New Japan for decades. He's a legend, though, and everyone knows the name Jushin Thunder Liger because whenever people were talking, anyone who's been in Japan, when they're talking about, oh, who did you wrestle in Japan? Jushin Thunder Liger is one of the first names out of their mouths, whether it's Jericho, Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, all those guys going down to Bryan and all these guys. They said Thunder Liger is like one of the best workers ever. And, he did come in, do some stints with WCW. He did one stint in NXT, actually, back in 2015 at Brooklyn, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. And he had a great match with Tyler Breeze. Very underrated match to open the show. That was the big opening match that I think NXT needed to have their big show, and it really delivered. So, Jushin Thunder Liger going in the Hall of Fame. Interesting pick. What do you think, Trev?
Oh, I like the pick. I just don't understand why he's going in WWE's Hall of Fame because he spent more time with WCW, which makes more sense because they bought WCW, whatever, logistics. But like you said, he's a legend in New Japan. He's a legend in general. Like if you are a wrestling watcher, if you have performed wrestling, you know who Jushin Thunder Liger is. I think this is one of Vince's plans to, this person got in the Hall of Fame. This is stupid. NWO is in the Hall of Fame. This is dumb. Oh, Jushin Thunder Liger. We'll watch this, and then he pulls more bullshit down your throat. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things I think he is using to keep the watchers watching. I like Thunder Liger. I love him to death. I think he's an amazing wrestler. He, to me, goes in the same sentence as Great Muta. He's just a prolific figure, and I think he deserves it. But I don't believe he deserves to be in WWE's Hall of Fame.
And I think you bring up an interesting point. It brings up the question, what is the WWE Hall of Fame? What does it mean to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? Is it a wrestling Hall of Fame? Well, kind of when they want it to be. Or is it WWE's Hall of Fame? Well, yeah, kind of when they want it to be. It's right, and that's the answer. It's whatever WWE in the moment wants. It's all about their narrative, whatever they want. It's so I mean, look, here's the thing. I whenever I think about this, I think about for Jushin Thunder Liger, I still think this is an honor he's worthy of. I'm not gonna say he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, right? Because I want to see, I want to see Jushin Thunder Liger on this big a stage, get his moment, and get his recognition from the wrestling community. That's what I see it as, right? And so, WWE Hall of Fame or New Japan, whatever, doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna love it. I cannot wait to hear his speech. That's gonna be interesting.
That's gonna be very interesting.
But
I'm not sure how much English he knows, actually.
I think he knows enough to get us to pop a few times, but
right.
We'll see. We'll see. Another person who's going in that wrestling fans are extremely excited for is Davey Boy Smith. The British Bulldog is going into the WWE Hall of Fame. Obviously, one half of the British Bulldog tag team. He also had a stint as the Intercontinental Champion, winning in one of the best pay-per-views in wrestling history, SummerSlam 1992, against his match against Bret Hart while he was under the influence, but he still put on a great match. And Davey Boy Smith, then he popped around a little bit, and then after Bret got screwed, he had a little stint in WCW, and then he came back, and then he ended his career. But Trevor, I know you're excited about this. Davey Boy Smith going into the Hall of Fame. What's your reaction?
I love the British Bulldogs. Dynamite Kid, Davey Boy Smith. I love those guys. He's one of my favorites. You mentioned the great Intercontinental match. You also missed the European Championship match he had with Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
which was another good one. He had a stint with the tag team championship with Yokozuna and Owen Hart. I mean, look, the list goes on. He's it was an amazing performer. I love to see that he wasn't really that tall. He was big guy, but he wasn't really that tall. But some of the things he did were just incredible. Like he he revolutionized the running power slam. That was one of his moves. Like he was a great wrestler. I'm actually really excited about this. I think it's a long time coming. I feel like a lot of the members of the newer Hart Foundation didn't get a lot of the mention that they should have got, it Owen Hart included. But we're not going to get into that right now. But yeah, like I'm very excited. I'm very excited, and I can't wait to see what his daughter and his wife have to say about him. I honestly think it's going to be one of the better tearjerker moments, like we were talking about earlier, of the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what they have to say as well. And British Bulldog obviously deserves it, man. He like Davey Boy Smith, he's always been like the most underrated, one of the more like you could argue anyone in the Hart Foundation was underrated, but
Yeah,
he always he always shined. Whatever he did, he always shined in the spotlight. And it's tragic what happened to him obviously at the end, but I think that doesn't take away at all from his legacy. I think Davey Boy Smith, his legacy will always be that moment at SummerSlam '92 when he beat Bret Hart in England at one of their biggest shows of the year to win the Intercontinental title. I think that's going to be his legacy, and I mean that in the most complimentary way, because that's
absolutely.
one of the
Absolutely.
best endings to a pay-per-view WWE's ever done. So, big ups to, as Taz would say, big ups to my boy Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldogs. We love to see it. Another person that we love to see in the WWE Hall of Fame is one Molly Holly. I think
Yes.
this deserves to spend a little time on, because Molly Holly is one of the more underrated female performers, period.
Yep.
Like, she's a two-time women's champion. Also, you might not remember, she was also a former hardcore champion, guys.
There it is.
Yep. Molly Holly, she's one of the people who I think really set the stage for these women in wrestling now to have a path to become like these superstars, for people like Becky Lynch to headline WrestleMania. I think, a lot of that doesn't happen as fast as it did without Molly Holly. She was I know the word trailblazer gets thrown around a lot in wrestling whenever they want to talk about, the women's division. Molly Holly is the definition of a trailblazer in women's wrestling. So, Trevor, Molly Holly getting into the Hall of Fame. What do you think?
I think it's great for women's wrestling. I think it's great for the Hall of Fame. Um, she, like you said, Trailblazer gets used a lot, especially in wrestling. But she really was like, um, she was around a time period where it was, you were used to women dressing sexy. You're used to women coming out there showing half their body parts. Like she didn't do that. That's not something that Molly did. I mean, yeah, she in one of the old WWE magazines, she did do a swimsuit centerfold, but she had on a one piece. Like she she was one of those that thought women should be seen for their wrestling ability and not just their bodies. And that's one of the things she did. You remember Molly Holly? I mean, was she cute? Yes, but you remember her more for her in ring ability than just another pretty face. I mean, and not taking anything from the women that did show a little skin. I mean, Trish Stratus was an amazing talent. So was Lita. I mean, but it's just Molly Holly was what tried to set that trend. If it wasn't for Molly Holly, there wouldn't be a lot of those wrestlers out here now, like you said.
Yeah, and one thing that people don't realize, that she also trained a lot of female wrestlers as well, like, because they
Yeah,
didn't really have a huge training system built up for women's wrestling at that point. And she was kind of the more experienced person on the roster in like the mid 2000s. She was training a lot of the people like Mickey James. Even said like Molly Holly, like I'm not the superstar I am without Molly Holly. So she's had a huge impact on everyone's career. I remember my biggest memory of Molly Holly like growing up was like at WrestleMania 20. She had a match with Victoria where she got her head shaved bald.
Yeah,
Like the loser had to get her head shaved, and Molly Holly lost that match. And like according to all the records, she took it like a pro. Like she was excited. She had her moment, and look, people want to say, "Oh my God, that's humiliating" or whatever. Like she had a great match with Victoria, followed up by a genuine WrestleMania moment that people are gonna remember for a long time. And it wasn't one of those things where it was just like an exhibition, or it's just like like one of those like Playboy penthouse matches they used to have or whatever. Like no, like this was stakes. Like we talk a lot about on the show. Like we love wrestling is best when something's on the line, when there's stakes. That was a stake on the line. Something was on. Her hair was on the line. The title was on the line, and that was the result. And that's something I think people are gonna that people still remember to this day. And that I think for her to have that moment, and her and Victoria to have that moment was huge. And big ups to Molly Holly as well. We love to see her in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, she's still behind the scenes now, if I'm not mistaken. I know she was for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who else is fine as hell? Eric Bischoff. Looking great for his age. He's going into the Hall of Fame as well at the sprightly age of 65. The Bischoff, former senior vice president of WCW, led to WCW to an 83 consecutive ratings win streak over the WWF during the Monday Night Wars. Also held the WCW hardcore title once, in case you didn't know. General manager of Raw, the alleged creator of the Elimination Chamber match, 2 miles of chain, 10 tons of steel, a structure designed to punish the human body, and the host of 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, the podcast that we all love to hear every now and then. But Eric Bischoff is going into the Hall of Fame. Trevor, thoughts?
You know what? I don't hate this one either, actually. I thought I would hearing it. I thought I would initially hearing it. Because of some of the bullshit Eric Bischoff has done. I mean, he's done a lot of great things. He also done a lot of terrible things too. But no, I actually like this. I think a lot of his work on WWE as the general manager was gold. Being a pivotal member of the original NWO, the one that actually fucking mattered, was good. And you know what? I didn't hate his commentary because they always paired him with other people that actually knew what the hell they were talking about. So he was kind of like the comic. But I loved him in Bobby Brain Heat. I thought it was great TV. But no, I don't hate this one. I think this is another one they got right. 3 out of like 18.
Yeah, I mean, Eazy-E. It's easy, again, it's like another person easy to hate on, easy to find stuff you disagree with, right? But I think Eric Bischoff's legacy, well, he was a Hall of Famer the second that 83 week win streak happened.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
to naturally get that audience that they got, to take down what was at that point the Titan in professional wrestling, and to be beating them as consistently as they did was a huge deal. And and all of that credit goes to Eric Bischoff. Now, did it get old pretty fast?
Yeah. Really cool.
Did he kind of just ram the NWO down everyone's throats? Yeah. Was it dumb to have the Wolf Pack and then the Latino World Order and the Blue, like all these different world orders? Yeah. It got overdone. But he comes in and he does the general manager role. And when you think of Raw general managers, a lot of people to this day still think of Eric Bischoff. Because he was so good at that job. He was so good at acting in that position. He was so good at being the cocky heel. And look, we talk about what's the bar for the Hall of Fame. Eric Bischoff is a Hall of Famer. It's not even like it's not even like a question. Like he's just one of the most consequential figures in professional wrestling history because of what he did with WCW. Because he's the person who came the closest ever to taking down, the King Kong, the Godzilla, whatever you want to call it, the WWE. He came the closest ever because they had him down. They just couldn't keep it up, and that's a whole separate thing. But to do it as consistently as well as they did, and to have the vision to do that, because that was his vision, I think that's a big deal, and it's definitely worthy of Hall of Fame.
I totally agree. Can't agree more. I agree more with this one than NWO. But
sweet. Wait, is Eric Bischoff going in as the NWO too?
Exactly,
dude.
That's another good one.
Eric Bischoff, the first person in WWE history to become a 2-time Hall of Famer in one night, Daddy. Oh God, wrestling. I hate you sometimes. You know what I don't hate though? The greatest world champion in SmackDown history, the Great Khali. Let's talk about it. The Great Khali is gonna. There he is. The Great Khali, accompanied by Ranjin Singh, there as the world champion, is going into the 2021 WWE Hall of Fame. He is by far the biggest star in the history of India wrestling. He's a former world champion, made him the first ever world champion of Indian descent and South Asian descent. Shout out to my Desi brother. He won the Slammy Award in 2008 for Damn Moment of the Year for hosting the Khali Kiss Cam, which everyone detested. He also is what led us to Jinder Mahal being the WWE champion. Amazing work there by Khali. We love it. He also had one of the best gimmicks in WWE. Big sexy Khali.
Yeah.
When he hosted the Kiss Cam. So Great Khali had a great run in WWE. Got paid a lot of money. A lot of people think this is a very controversial pick. I don't agree. Trevor, I know you do think it was a controversial pick, so why don't you start us off in the conversation about Khali? What irks you about this?
So here's my thing. And I kind of talked about it briefly earlier. I don't hate Great Khali. I don't. I just think Great Khali would have been a lot better if he could walk or move. Like, he was one of the stiffest wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. He had bad knees, which I honestly believe hindered his career a lot, honestly. When he was in the ring, like he had skills. I mean, like, he really didn't have to do much because Ranjin Singh talked for him. Like, he didn't really have to do anything. He was already sold because Ranjin Singh did a good job with that.
Yo, Ranjin Singh, man. Before we go on, Ranjin Singh deserves a shout out. He made that gimmick work. He was great. I think he's still employed by WWE as a writer to this day. It's crazy. Yeah.
And also, backtrack a little bit. Is Molly Holly still employed with them? Because I know she was.
I think she was in NXT. She was NXT, right? She was an NXT coach, I believe. Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's just one of those things. Like, you would have liked to see them better than what we got them as. Like, we got Great Khali with bad knees. Yes, he was huge, and yes, if he hit anybody, I mean, honestly, if it was a real fight, if he could hit somebody, he'd probably knock him out. So it was believable. But it was just one of those things where you're like, this is kind of dumb because he can't even hit the ropes right. Like, it's taking him 5 minutes to walk down the entrance aisle. Like, I mean, it's just. But he did introduce the Punjabi prison match, or
oh God! All right. I think you've made your case.
But no, I'm actually okay. I don't hate it. I don't like it, but I'm okay with it.
Look, my bottom line defense of Great Khali being in the Hall of Fame is that Coco Beware is in the Hall of Fame. That's the bottom.
Yeah,
that's the bottom. All right, anything, and Khali's just above that in a lot of people's opinion, that's fine. He's a Hall of Famer. But in all seriousness, like, okay, I understand the Great Khali obviously wasn't the best worker, wasn't the best talker, wasn't the best, character. But what he was imposing. he was a threat for like, especially when he had that original run with Taker, and then he went to John Cena, Kurt Angle. He was a threat in those matches. And when you saw him and that chop for a shoot, you could tell that shit hurt because he wasn't like pulling it. It was just, I'm gonna chop. I'm 7'3". I'm just gonna chop you as much as I can. So like he came off as a threat. And the other thing that I think doesn't get talked about, and I think this is more of like a personal thing, I think too. You know, like for me, like up until that point, dude, the closest I ever got to seeing someone who looked like me to be a world champion or to be in WWE at that point was Muhammad Hassan, who was an Italian, and who they made a terrorist. Like that was his gimmick. Like so I didn't have much to relate to, you know? Like you talked about how Ron Simmons earlier, you talked about how he became like the first African American world champion in history. Like that was like you know, and that's a big moment. And you know, like for me, you know, Khali coming in and like being as prominent as he was, you know, whether or not I rooted for him or not, it was big because that was like the first, like, you know, South Asian, Pakistani, Indian, whatever, superstar in WWE they ever had that was like pushed like he was, like, and he was a threat, and like you can't. Oh, I don't know what I just said. But you can't discount though also what he meant to the Indian market as well, because Khali was so over in India. Like, there has been no one as over in a country other than maybe Steve Austin in 1998 and 1999 than Khali was in India ever. Like, Khali can walk down the street to this day in India. He's still going to get a huge pop from, like, the market. Like, it's insane. Like, in India, did you know this? For Raw, the Raw would air on the tape delay in India. They would edit Raw so that his matches would be in the main event.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like Khali was so over. It's insane. And he really, I think, helped like just crack into that India market. And, you know, they tried that with Jinder Mahal as well. It wasn't as successful because Khali wasn't a part of it. I think Khali's like the biggest star in Indian wrestling history. I think that's why he probably deserves to get into the Hall of Fame. He meant a lot to those people. He meant a lot to me personally as well, you know. And I think, like, again, Coco Beware is in the Hall of Fame. Tori Wilson is in the Hall of Fame. All of the, bro, like, the bar is so low at this point that, man, like, if you're complaining about Khali, like, who actually won the world championship, whether you liked it or not, he's actually a world champion. Honky Tonk Man is in the Hall. Like, come on.
If you talk about Honky Tonk Man as a gimmick, it was terrible. But he's also arguably one of the best Intercontinental champions to ever live. Unfortunately,
didn't he lose it to the Warrior while singing his song? He still had the guitar on when he lost.
That was the funniest shit possible. but not downplaying what Great Khali was. I mean, like,
watch it. I heard that. I heard you almost said Jinder.
I did almost say Jinder Mahal. Indian people, we like Khali. Please don't get mad at me. But no, like, not downplaying what he was, because he was actually, he did a lot for Indian wrestling. But like, I mean, and to piggyback off something you said, I am African American, but I am also lighter skinned. So growing up with like superheroes and stuff like that, I didn't really see anyone that, in my opinion, looked like him. So I get where you're coming from with that. Like, most of the superheroes and most of the wrestlers were darker skin. I mean, yes, they were African American, but they didn't necessarily look like me, if that makes any sense. So I get where you're coming from with that. And I can only imagine what other people, you know, especially other Indian people, felt when he won. But like, I mean, I joke about it or whatever, but honestly, for that reason alone, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Agreed. See, I won. I win. I win. No
One
matter
out
what.
of like 1,000. You got one.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we're gonna agree on next. The Bella Twins are gonna be inducted into the Hall of
Jesus
Fame.
Christ.
Oh my God! As AJ once said on Raw, talent is definitely not sexually transmitted. Brie Bella and Nikki Bella are gonna be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Both former Divas champions. Brie Bella, of course, married to my favorite wrestler ever, Daniel Bryan. Nikki Bella, formerly engaged to John Cena. That did not work out well. Should have just given her the baby John. But Bella Twins getting into the Hall of Fame. You know, the internet obviously didn't like this one as much. But what do you think?
Unfortunately, and I say that because the girls had some skill. They did. It's a tag team that had some skill, and I kind of wish they actually had a Divas Tag Team Championship back then. But in singles competition, I didn't think they were that great. But if you talk about Divas wrestling or women's wrestling, they were on that little edge there. I mean, AJ Lee, Paige, they were around that time period. So, I mean, they did help a little bit, honestly. You may not think they were great wrestlers. You may not think their gimmick was great. They did come off as fucking annoying. But they did some average twin WWE tropes. One is laying on the mat, the other one sneaks in. We've seen it. We saw it with the Bushwhackers. We've seen it with.
Yep. They also had the greatest like twin line ever in a feud when Nikki just screamed at Brie saying, "I wish you died in the womb." It's just wild. What? Whenever I think of the Bella Twins, it's like I wish you died in the womb. Whenever I think of the Bella Twins, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm just like, oh shit, like that is real, bro.
I mean, they were the first reality stars too.
Yeah, I think that's like also. So that's an interesting case, like because they weren't the best workers. Definitely. No. I mean, they got better. Like they definitely got better, right? Throughout their career. Towards the end of their careers, they were actually pretty decent workers.
Yeah, I thought Brie was probably better than Nikki at one point.
Yeah. They were never good promos, I'm not gonna lie. Like in WWE, in the ring, they were never good promos. But on the reality show, they were stars. Like they were, and I think I'm not sure how many eyeballs they actually brought on the product. I'm not sure like how that actually worked because I don't know like the ratings and the stats behind that. But I do think that they just because of that, that's like the reason they're getting it. I'm not saying I agree with it. You know, the Bella Twins are not like high on my list of getting into the Hall of Fame. But again, we come back to the bottom. Coco Beware. Are they better than Coco Beware combined? Definitely.
Hey, he had the bird and he could dance. You leave Coco alone.
that bird was more of a Hall of Famer than he was. That was his entire gimmick. Like, shut up, Coco. Look, Coco Beware. You want to defend yourself? Come on this show. Defend yourself. Open invitation, Coco. Where you at, son? Even give you a payday. I got a $5 off gift card to Bennigan's. Come through, son.
That's fucked up.
It's like Virgil. It's like Virgil just DMs me. Hey, you still got that coupon? Son?
You got that coupon, son? You got that coupon?
It's like I'll take a picture with you. But no. Going back to the Bella Twins. The Bella Twins. Again, I think it's all about Total Bellas and Total Divas. They did a lot of work there, and I think that did help get like other stars. I think like Naomi did that show. Paige did that show. A bunch of other divas and Natalia, they all did that show. So and the Bellas were kind of like the spearhead of that entire series. So I guess maybe they helped other women in that respect along with their careers, but. They're also always the ones that WWE pushed. They always pushed the Bella Twins. My thing is, though, as we're wrapping up, because we only have two more Hall of Famers left, and then we're going to get into our next thing. But my thing is, though, like, it's just strange to me that the Bella Twins get into the Hall of Fame, and a team like Demolition doesn't. Like, That's still like, I know there's politics and like there's lawsuits and all that. Like, they've worked it out before. Like Ultimate Warrior got into the Hall of Fame. Bruno Sammartino, before he died, obviously got in. Like, they can always work something out. Like Demolition needs to be in the Hall of Fame, because as much as like I know that New Day now has a record of longest reigning tag team champions ever, but that record's always going to be Demolition's. Like that's the only reason they broke it. Like Demolition were great.
Demolition, I mean, piggyback on it, this has nothing to do with this, but Demolition, great tag team, again, one of my favorites, and they should have been in. But another thing that I forgot to mention, and we both forgot to mention with the Bella twins, they brought the female demographic up high when it comes to wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you saw some so-called girly girls, but they were one of the first, like, teams that was like really prissy and all that, and a lot of little girls watched it because of that. So I mean, that there are reasons why they got in. Again, I don't totally agree with it, but again, the bar is low. So
amen. The demographic of birds that Coco Beware brought in when he got into the Hall of Fame, immense. Let's wrap it up now. Got 2 more Hall of Famers to go. God damn, this is a long list. I am not going to be able to get through that Hall of Fame in one sitting.
No.
The latest inductee into the Hall of Fame, the latest announced inductee, was the one, the only Rob Van Dam. Rob Van Dam, former ECW champion, former WWE champion, the only person to hold both of those titles at the same damn time. Also held the TNA World title. Rob Van Dam in the Hall of Fame. What do we think?
Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice at all. Some people...
Yes, I my Hall of Famers have a little more class than Mr. Van Dam, but I am not going to sully my hands with such a choice.
They sip their tea. But no, like, I mean, he's not a bad pick. I actually grew up loving Rob Van Dam, loved his work in ECW, loved his work, in the Indies, loved his work in WWE. His work in Impact, but like, I think Rob is at the end of his career and he needs to just hang it up at this point. But yeah, I don't hate this one. I don't hate this one. I can understand why. But it's just one of those things where I know a lot of fans don't like it, and I can understand their plight. There was especially when there's so many other wrestlers. But you mentioned the Demolition earlier. Has Earthquake been inducted yet? Or
no, Earthquake has not been in. Oh my. Okay, right after this, I'm starting a petition to get Earthquake inducted into the Hall of Fame because he needs to get the hold up. The Dungeon of Doom. If there's any team that is worthy of a Hall of Fame induction, it is the Dungeon of Doom.
And we all know Kevin Sullivan was horrible, but he still needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. It is etched in stone.
but see that's been our whole point the entire night. Like, is Rob Van Dam a terrible pick? No. Is he a great pick? No. But are there other people that deserve to be in it before him? Yes. And I think that's the theme of this list.
Yep. Let's wrap it up now because I'm getting tired of talking about the Hall of Fame. God damn, Vince did not make this easy. Glenn Jacobs Kane was announced to be the next inductee into the Hall of Fame. He actually was announced by The Undertaker. The Undertaker let him know on WWE's bump, and he got very emotional talking about it. And, he didn't really say a lot. He just kind of got choked up in the moment, which I totally understand. And it was a real moment. And I think a guy like Kane getting in, like, that's someone, like, we grew up watching him, literally watched his entire career blossom. And, he had some ups and downs, but Kane is a Hall of Famer. I don't think you're gonna find anyone who questions whether or not he is. His storyline with the Undertaker originally, it's like one of the best familial storylines that in wrestling history. Like, probably the only one that's not total bullshit. Talking to you, Bella Twins. And like, going off of that, he had this like monster presence. Like, Kane, especially when he tore off the mask and like he had that feud with Shane McMahon, that feud with the Undertaker. the dude felt like a monster who like when he comes out, he's going to kill you. Like, he had a great movie, See No Evil, like where he essentially played himself. You know,
It was a biography.
yeah, yeah, and like he has like 50 eliminations in a Royal Rumble. He's doing it for a long time. Mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. Like he's been all over the place. He's a trooper and true professional, and he obviously deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, you said everything I was gonna say. It's no point in even beating the dead horse. He definitely deserves it. Like his biggest down probably was the Isaac Yankem DDS, and then everything was up from there.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, there was also him locking Paul Bearer in the freezer.
I mean,
and
like
then pushing Zack Ryder down the. Okay, there were some downs towards the end. We're not gonna lie.
Yeah, there were, but
that peak
I
was so
believe
great.
He deserved it. He hands down he deserved it.
Yeah, that peak was amazing. All right, let's move on from this because I am so sick of talking about the Hall of Fame.
I'm actually sick of watching it. I don't even watch it this point.
Yeah, you know what? This was this was your induction, fellas. We hope we did a good job. Vince, pay me. But yeah, before Vince pays me though, you know what I want the watchers of this to do? Like, share, subscribe, baby. We got to grow. We keep doing this every week, and we love it. We love to see the channel grow. We love to see you guys come and watch it with us. And while I set up the graphics for the next topic, I also want y'all to be on the lookout. My boy Trevor is going to be starting a new venture pretty soon on the tube. On the tube, we're going to be releasing some info on that in the coming weeks, you know. But you know, so be on the lookout for that. There's going to be some exciting stuff in the pipes for that.
You know, what I was thinking about, Omar, we should and since he is huge on like Twitter and stuff, it would be great if we could. I don't know how we could do it, but possibly get Sammy Guevara to be on the show.
I actually have one wrestler that I'm that I am in talks with potentially appearing on the show. Sammy Guevara, I'll reach out to. I'm not sure how fruitful that would be, but there is one wrestler.
The only reason I say that is because he is huge for social media. That's the only reason I say that.
I will slide in their DM. I will slide in anyone's DMs to be on the show, except for Virgil. I'm not paying that man.
He only wants $15 in a sandwich. Leave him alone.
Okay, no wait. The sidebar. Did I tell you I saw Virgil in New York when WrestleMania was there? I saw him there. I saw Virgil. So I'm at a Starbucks. It's like early in the morning. I took the bus up to New York to visit some family and, you know, kind of take part in the WrestleMania festivities. So I get there. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. I took a bus ride from DC. It's like a 5-hour ride on the mega bus. So I'm like, let me get some coffee in me. Wake me up. I go there. And in line in front of me, I see this man who, like, this older black gentleman in sweatpants, just gray sweatpants and suit from head to toe, and he goes to the Starbucks and he goes to the cashier and I look over there. I'm like, that's fucking Virgil. I looked up a picture of him on my phone. I was like, that is Virgil. And like, but when I realized it, I was like, it was like too late. He was walking away. I was like, I really wanted this coffee. So like to this day, my biggest regret is like just now running out of that Starbucks right then and there, and like, you know, getting like swindled out of $15 for a picture. God bless Virgil. We hope you're doing well. But yeah, I have one person that I'm going to talk to you about offline, and I will be announcing. But moving on, the Hall of Fame is over, at least from where we're talking. So let's move on. Let's talk about the WWE Network on Peacock. Been a lot of problems from fans. Have been reporting a lot of problems on the network. Fans no longer have access to the network. It was supposed to be until April 4th. You were supposed to have access. Now there's no access at all to the old network. It's all on Peacock, but it's not. They still haven't transferred over all of the stuff on Peacock, so there's like a limited amount of stuff in the library. Basically, you can only watch former or past WrestleManias and some like individual wrestlers like you know, playlists and not much else. But, you know, this has caused a lot of backlash from fans. And it's not just that. Peacock has came out and said that it's going to take until about SummerSlam until all of this is kind of figured out and they have the network fully moved over and the search engine is like working and all that kind of stuff. So we got months of this in like left to go. And on top of that, Trevor, they're removing stuff from the network. I covered this in a video I did just a few days ago, and but we have some stuff that I want to talk to you about specifically. So let's take a look at this news report from Hollywood Reporter. So, according to sources familiar with the situation, the NBC Universal owned streaming service is reviewing all 17,000 hours of its WWE content to ensure it aligns with Peacock's standards and practices. WWE is also being made aware of any edits. One of the alterations has been to the 1990s WrestleMania 6, which featured a match between Roddy Piper and Bad News Brown that included Piper, a white wrestler, painting half his face black while facing off against Brown, a black wrestler. They also removed a very controversial moment of Vince McMahon very casually using the N-word in front of John Cena and Booker T at Survivor Series 2005, which I still don't get why he did that. But like we're seeing this. They're editing the network, right, to live up to their standards and practices. And one of the things I brought up in my video was, I get why, because a lot of stuff in wrestling, you look back and it's cringe. But at the same time, if they really edit out everything that's like offensive and that like doesn't meet up to their standards and practices, there's not going to be a lot left out of that 17,000 hours of footage.
No, it's not. I mean, and then you think about the footage that they have from ECW. How much are they going to be able to save?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, ECW is probably one of the most offensive promotions there was. I mean, all the blood matches, all the, you had, what's his name? Black guy stabbing homeboy with a blade. New Jack stabbing him with a blade. Like, I mean, like there's a lot of, a buddy of mine, an actual wrestler buddy of mine, posted about it recently. He was like, rest in peace to my wrestling history, to my wrestling culture. Like, it's going to be a lot that he won't be able to go back and watch, being a fan of ECW, being a fan of some of those controversial matches. And a lot of people, period. I mean, like half of Rock's promos were offensive. You're going to cut off half of some of the greatest promos on TV off because they're offensive. Not only Rock, we're talking about when D-Generation X came up and did their public service announcement. I mean, and half of what DX used to do when they talked about their dicks constantly. I mean, it's just a lot of things that are going to be cut off. And the like traditional like diehard wrestling fan is not going to want to watch Peacock. There are going to be a lot of people that don't sign up to Peacock because of it.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point you just made. Like the good thing about the network, right, was that they didn't really mess with it. The only thing originally when the network came on that was removed was the moment when Owen Hart fell in 1999 over the edge, and we understand exactly why. Because you don't want to show someone's death on the network like that. You want to glorify that. That's fine, right? They even kept in the Benoit matches. They kept in like a lot of the raunchy stuff that honestly you didn't really think they would. And look, and it so for me, when I did the video, right, it brought up an interesting conversation for me. For me, the conversation was, okay, well, like if The Office, like they have a show on NBC Peacock called The Office, a little known show, right? The Office has some raunchy moments as well, or like Breaking Bad or like other shows. Other TV shows have like terrible, deplorable characters, have deplorable moments, right, in their TV show history. Are we going to take those out of their shows as well? Like, or Oz? Are you going to go like, cut out all those times, like, like there were terrible things you saw on like TV shows like Oz? And like the question is WWE a TV show like that? Because that's how they've always, WWE has always presented themselves. They make movies, pal, right?
Right.
And like, so that's like the interesting conversation for me, because if it's fictional, right, which we know WWE is, it's fictional, then these moments, I think they don't then they kind of fit into the realm of a TV show. But the way Peacock's treating it is more so as, is blurring the lines with reality, which wrestling does do. So it's just interesting to me, I just don't know. I honestly don't know. There's because wrestling does blur the lines between reality and fiction. So to you, is wrestling like a TV show, or is it like something more?
And that's the thing, and that's an interesting conversation to have, because they promote themselves as wrestling entertainment, and entertainment does come off as a television show, movie, whatever have you. So the thing is, you gotta, and like you said, the lines are blurred there, but you gotta figure out which one it is, because so wrestling was wrestling, what it was at its peak, because of the controversial things they could do on TV. You saw half-naked women wrestling in pudding, gravy, just ripping each other's clothes off. Shit, you saw Sable come out with pasties on one night. Like it was the reason it was what it was because of that controversial content. Now you're taking off the very violent chair shots. You're taking off the pasty matches. You're taking off all the stuff that helped make wrestling history. Now, was it? Did it need to be there in the first place? Probably not. But it was there. It was there, and that's part of our history. I mean, you're gonna cut promos. You're gonna cut things that that if you or me had kids or had little brothers or whatever have you, that we want to, hey, when I was your age, this is what was on TV. Like, you won't be able to do that.
Yeah, and yeah, you I think you said it right there. And for me, again, I just come back to this idea of like, if they're gonna do that with WWE, then I think like they probably should be consistent with it and do it with The Office or whatever, or not. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I just, and here's the thing though. It was gonna happen with the second WWE was shopping the network. Something like this was gonna happen because WWE could only get away with like showing that stuff, I think, when it was their own platform.
Right.
The second you get like Peacock or Fox or anyone else involved, you muddy the waters and it becomes corporatized. And we saw what happened with WCW. Standards and practices kind of ruined that company. And I'm not saying, and like I said, I'm not saying whether or not this is like good or bad, because there's obviously deplorable moments. Like if you want me to be real, Roddy Piper in blackface, not a good look.
No, not at all.
Vince McMahon casually using the N-word. Yeah, definitely shouldn't have happened to begin with. But when you get to the other stuff, right? Like I think it's like a question of like, is WWE that much different than SNL, which is like a variety show where comedians kind of blurry the lines of reality as well. So so it's again, it's weird. It's weird. I get it, but at the same time, if you're gonna go back to all 17,000 hours and cut out every offensive moment, you're gonna lose a lot of fans, and two, you're not gonna have much left.
Yeah, there's not gonna be much left. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things where, like you said, like and I said it earlier too. Does it need to be cut out? Probably, but if you cut out all the offensive things, it's just you just have a network at this point. And like, I wondered why they didn't shop it with places like HBO Max or something like that. You know what I mean? With their content won't be cut like this. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm not totally happy with it myself, being a network holder. But yeah, we'll see.
I mean, part of it, I think, was like the reason they didn't shop it elsewhere was because Peacock offered them $1 billion for 5 years. Like that's
probably what.
That's a lot of money. And you know how Vince is like, God damn it, I want more.
I need his money.
I need money. But that's how they work. And like, but it's also like going away from like just the content too. Like the actual setup of the network on Peacock is terrible. You can't find anything. Like I can't. Like if I want to go back, like I'm like in a binge right now where I'm watching every single episode or every single pay-per-view of WCW, right? Right now I'm like in the 1999 era, and I can't watch anything from that time in my free time anymore. So I have to wait now until like September apparently when they fix it to continue watching them. By that time, am I going to be interested? Because I've already been on this binge. Like that's the thing. Like again, that's the thing. They probably should have thought about it before if they actually cared about the fans to have this already set up by WrestleMania. But the thing is, they didn't.
They did. No,
they saw the dollars and they took
it's all a money thing, honestly. I mean, and it just shows how much Vince actually gives a fuck about the fans anyway. Sorry, because I was actually doing the In Your House binge. I was watching a lot of the In Your Houses, and I can't do that now because you can't find it. So,
but God damn it, you can find the best of Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton's greatest matches that aren't Backlash 2004. Because you can't find that. I did not see that in his greatest hits thing. So, oh man. And that was a great match. Like I hope they don't actually end up cutting like matches, like hardcore matches. Because then
they might though.
Like here's the thing. If you cut moments or whatever, like okay. Like I'm okay. Like, but if you're gonna just cut like violent matches just because they show blood or whatever, like that's when it's just like, all right, I might be done with your product. Like I'm not gonna pay for Peacock because like I don't want to have Peacock anyway. I'm already paying $15 a month for fucking Netflix. I'm already paying
exactly. Why the hell do I want Peacock?
Yeah, like Peacock. No. Especially when I can watch Paramount Plus. I can watch every episode of Jersey Shore uncensored. That's what I want in my life, uncensored.
Why would you want?
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Even though Jersey Shore is kind of funny. Dude,
it's like why people love like reality shows like The Real World. Like you don't like it because it's like quality people and good TV and like good TV that you can learn from. It's just funny to watch them fuck up. Speaking of fucking up, our last official topic of the day. WWE Raw. Trevor, I did it again. I tried my best to get through Raw. I gave it one more chance. 2 weeks ago, I said I was done with it forever. Yeah. I gave it a chance. Trevor, it was not pretty.
No.
God.
No. I just watched the reviews of it because I didn't want to put myself through that torture. Yeah, like... You want to start first, or should I?
I'll how about this? I'll give like a rundown, a little bit of some of the things that caught my. I'll just give a rundown and we can go from there. So, show kicks off with the Hurt Business imploding and breaking up, which we'll get to later. Then Riddle wanted to see Titus O'Neil. Oh my God! You know what? I don't even care. Riddle. You know what? I don't even care. You take it, Trevor. I'm sorry. I can't relive this. I can't relive this. This show was so bad. This show was so bad, Trevor.
It was so terrible. There was a guy maybe 2 weeks ago on one of the many wrestling podcasts and pages I'm a fan of. And he said, and I quote, "This Raw was a great show." And I literally looked on his Facebook page to make sure he wasn't mentally ill, because that's the only way you could think last 2 weeks ago was ever any good. Like, dude, Raw has not been good in a long time. And normally the best thing about Raw is the promos. And for a long time, the best thing about Raw was the Hurt Business. And it was a very successful group, but Vince was like, oh, they're successful. Break them up. Let's break them up. And you know what? Let's put him with Baron Corbin. That works. That makes more sense. That's dumb. And then you have Shane McMahon come out with evidence that Braun Strowman is dumb. Are we still beating this stupid horse that Braun Strowman is not intelligent? That's the worst thing you can say about him. Like, oh my God! Like, the only saving grace I thought about Raw was Randy Orton's promo. I thought that was a great promo. I even liked Alexa Bliss a little bit promo as well. But I thought that was the best thing about the show.
Look, okay, I have 3 thumbs up for this show. 1, Randy Orton and his promo, like you said. 2, Alexa Bliss and her playground or whatever. Like this with the Fiend, scary as fuck seeing the Fiend still on a swing. I've never thought a man on a swing would scare me as much. Drew McIntyre, another big up for me this week. I think when he barged into the Raw locker room at one point and literally picked a fight. He pushed people. He fought people. He was ready to go. He had a face-off with Braun Strowman that I think could be a sign of things to come. God willing. But other than that, man, a lot of downs. The Hurt Business breaking up. Okay, you know what the biggest down for this show was for me? For the longest time, Trevor, we've been talking about how WWE have so much time on television, but they can't find time for all of these people. They can't find time for all of this great talent that they have. Right. And you know what I noticed, Trevor? They had multiple 10-minute long segments with the same people.
Yeah, they did.
And that's bad. It happened with the Hurt Business. They had essentially three segments with the Hurt Business, two of them promos, one of them a match where Bobby Lashley beat the shit out of Shelton Benjamin. Then they did the same thing with the New Day. They had a promo backstage with Omos and AJ Styles where they said, we're going to play charades. That took up a good 5 minutes. And then when they came back from commercial, they did a 10-minute long game of charades. And then they did a match. That's 25 minutes there. You just eat it into people's time. And you're telling me, oh man, we just can't find time for people like Drew Gulak and Ricochet. We just can't find time. Are you serious?
You don't want to find time for it. That's the thing. You have all this talent that you're using is going to waste. It just doesn't make any sense. And then you break up your most successful faction. The Hurt Business was a reason to watch Raw. We watched Raw because MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, the almighty Bobby Lashley. It was good TV. It was good to watch. And then you break up one of the most successful things you had. Does Vince McMahon hate his fans?
Yes, Trevor.
He has to.
Yes.
He can't.
Dude,
he can't
Vince doesn't like us. This guy. Dude, Vince is the same person who thought Batista in 2014 winning the Royal Rumble after not wrestling for 4 years while Daniel Bryan was in the midst of the biggest babyface uprising ever was the answer for WrestleMania. Their plan was Batista going over at WrestleMania over Randy Orton in the main event after the Undertaker streak had ended. They had all that planned out. They thought that was the end. Oh, man, that's going to get people up in their seats and excited after the Undertaker loses the streak. Haha, God damn it. This guy, I'm sorry. He was a genius in the 80s, genius in the 90s, genius in the early 2000s. Ever since then, it's been a downward spiral.
Who's writing this shit though? Who is honestly sitting there?
McMahon. Dude. Here's the thing. You know what? The writers are writing for McMahon. That's the thing. Okay. The writers, because they know their entire job depends on whether or not the boss likes what they write, whether or not what they write gets into the show. So they just write for Vince. They write things he might like charades. God damn it. I love to see the New Day do charades. God forbid they wrestle. Ha ha ha. Ah, yes, let's break up the most successful faction we've had in a while now. God damn it.
One thing is, who's writing for NXT? Because it can't be the same boneheads that are writing for Raw.
No, I think NXT doesn't even have proper writers. I think they have a booking committee. I think they have old school type of booking committee. They don't have writers. I think Norman Smiley and Triple H kind of handle that, and Michael Cole as well.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels is part of it too, I think.
Yeah, it's I mean that's the thing, man. I think it's just wrestling is simple. You don't need SNL writers. You don't need Hollywood writers to write wrestling. You might want to have one as an advisor.
Who was that we quoted last week that said wrestling isn't hard, wrestling is simple?
Who said what?
Who did we quote last week that said wrestling isn't hard? It's simple, and he explained why he said that.
I said that last week. Man, I said that.
Yeah, but I thought it was an actual guy on a podcast that said that as well. But anyway.
I did on this podcast. I'm saying it right now. Wrestling is fucking easy. It's the simplest thing in the world. Good guy, bad guy, momentum, mania, money. It's not that hard. Vince.
But one thing is, how is SmackDown so successful right now? And this is is shit. This is just terrible. This Raw hasn't been worth watching in a very long time. I literally don't watch Raw at all. For the first time in a long time, I watched SmackDown maybe 2 weeks ago, and I actually enjoyed myself.
You know why, Trevor? Because it's a 2-hour show, because it's a wrestling show, and because it's the A show now. Raw, here's the thing. Raw hasn't been the A show ever since SmackDown signed that deal with Fox. Ever since then, Raw has been the A show because they got $1 billion in that deal from Fox, and Fox grossly overpaid for SmackDown. And they swindled Fox out of all that money. Now they're like, oh, goddamn it, we have to work to show for it. So they're actually putting out a better product. And you got Edge, you got Daniel Bryan, who's like been leading that show like for a while. Like, again, I will induct Daniel Bryan into the Real Take Wrestling Hall of Fame, man. This is no bullshit. First inductee, Daniel Bryan. We'll invite him. Well, he probably won't show up, but goddamn, we'll invite him. But yeah, look, Raw was bad. King Corbin came. Oh my God, King Corbin, who isn't even on Raw. Well, again, the brand extension means absolutely nothing, fans. King Corbin showed up on Raw and then attacked Drew McIntyre. Oh man, I'm just Trevor. Oh, save me,
dude. It's just it's not worth watching. I really don't watch it at all. I like I say, when I need to know what I need to know about Raw, I watch the snippets, the playbacks. I can't sit through a show. I can't sit through it. I cannot. And honestly, another terrible thing: Rhea Ripley and Asuka. I love Rhea Ripley. I love Asuka.
It's not working.
Rhea Ripley shows up on the show. I'm Rhea Ripley. I came from NXT. I deserve a title shot. Who did you fight? Like,
how do you put those two together and not make it work? Like, it's an indictment, man. It's such an imagine if SmackDown had The Fiend and the Randy Orton storyline with Alexa Bliss. Imagine if that storyline was on SmackDown. SmackDown would be the best wrestling show.
Oh ever. Hell yeah, hands down.
Like, oh man, it's just there's so much work to be done in that company. Jeez, I don't want to talk about Raw anymore. I'm done. No, like Ricochet, Mustafa Ali. Good job. You had matches on Raw. Congratulations. I don't care. My God, that was terrible. It was literally I've watched some bad Raws before. I watched Raw back in like 2010, 2011 every single. I watched SmackDown back in 2010. Yeah. Oh. That was bad. That was bad. Like, this is before Booker T came onto the scene with his shucky ducky quack quack with the greatest of ease. Like, that's when SmackDown 2011 SmackDown was great.
And when it was taped instead of live, right? So
yeah. The 2011 SmackDown was great. That was when they had Tyson Kidd and Daniel Bryan main eventing the show, and I was like, yo, they're tearing it up. And
exactly.
all Michael Cole is talking about is the Miz. I hate wrestling. Oh,
I don't know why we do this to ourselves. I don't know why we do this to ourselves.
Because when it's great, it's great. It's like
when it's a great product, it's a great product. But.
It's yeah. Anyway, all right, Trevor. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up this? Oh God, I think that the Raw just took the wind out of our sails.
It did. It definitely did, man. Thanks again for having me on. This was a lot of fun until we got to the Hall of Fame and this bullshit.
Oh yeah. I think the 11 inductees into the Hall of Fame is pretty bad. Let's see. Walter Chick said, "Boy, WWE Raw sucked balls last night. It was so bad." Yes, Walter.
We agree.
Yes.
As you heard, we agree.
It was so bad. Oh my, ugh. Oh God, this is like ECW 2010 bad. This is like, this is main event on the network bad. Superstars when main event became a thing. This is bad, Trevor. Oh God. But you know what's not bad? The fact that we get to come here every single Tuesday night, do this great, wonderful show, and literally pull our hairs out. Look at that strands of hair being pulled out of my head. But that's
all I got is the beard left, so it's really terrible.
Yeah, man. Hey, it's okay, man. Mine's on the comeback. Don't worry about that. Give me 2 weeks. But Trevor, again, thank you for coming and joining us as always, man. Cannot wait to see you next week. And cannot wait to see what you got in the pipeline plan. We got some exciting stuff. But yeah. Anyway, this has been Real Take Wrestle Talk. We still love wrestling, I think. Yeah, we'll see you next week.